7:30 Sunday on 10.
Now to the story of one of the most remarkable and inspiring women in the world. For almost 60 years, Dr. Catherine Hamlin has been helping the women of Ethiopia treat a medical condition that's been eradicated in the Western world, known as obstetric fistula. Here is Dr. Hamlin.
Most of our population is in the rural areas of Ethiopia, and the women come into labour and there's nobody to help them. And so we have set up a midwifery college to train 12th grade students from the countryside, and we deploy them back into their own country area when they graduate after a 4-year course in midwifery. And they become expert at diagnosing this condition of obstructed labour, which occurs in 5% of all women in the world. And a woman in obstructed labour needs a caesarean section, and in Australia she can get that easily, or a skilled delivery to deliver a live baby. Here they labour with no help, with nobody to look after them, and they have perhaps 5 or 6 days of labour, expelling a dead baby after 5 days of suffering, and then they're left with vaginal injuries where they have a hole in the bladder and often a hole in the rectum. So they're unable to control their body waste. This is a terrible condition which has been eradicated from the West, but here in developing countries like Ethiopia, it is a common condition. And we have set up a hospital to cure these women, but we want to prevent this women, and I believe that if we put a midwife in every village of Ethiopia, we could eradicate this fistula from this big land.
She is an extraordinary woman, and this year Dr. Hamlin was named New South Wales Senior Australian of the Year. And at the age of 94, she is still treating women in Ethiopia. Her niece, Dr. Alison Morgan, is on the board of the Hamlin Foundation, and she joins us now. Good morning, Alison. Thank you for joining us. Good morning. Your aunt, as I mentioned before, is truly an extraordinary woman. She has saved and changed the lives of so many women in these developing countries, and especially in Ethiopia. We just heard there that this condition is wiped out in many Western countries. Why is it still such an issue in Ethiopia?
Well, in countries like Ethiopia, it's very hard for women to get access to services. If the health system isn't strong, if there's not a hospital close by, then women who live in a remote village, they might be 10 hours walk from a road, they deliver at home, and then if in that 1 in 20 case where the labour is obstructed, they can't get to a hospital in time to have the caesarean section that they need. So you find this condition in any setting where the health system can't give timely quality maternity care to every woman. You see it in other countries in Africa, in countries like Nepal, in Asia, especially where women live in rural areas. The geography and access to care is difficult, and the health system might not give good coverage to all of its population.
It's simply shocking to hear and to think that there are women going through this sort of situation. But it's sort of easy for us to say, oh, that is so awful. But what was it that made your aunt and uncle set up not only a hospital in Ethiopia, but live there for over 60 years?
Yeah, well, they went in 1959 for a 3-year contract to set up a midwifery school there in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia. And a week after they got there, they met their first woman with this obstetric fistula condition, and their hearts just went out to them. They'd never seen the condition in Australia because our care is so much better here. And so they started to try and work out what to do. They had to look at really old textbooks to find out how you treat this condition, and they then developed their own surgical techniques to cure these women. And then once people heard that there was somebody treating these women, women started to arrive and come to the hospital, and then when they had a significant number of women waiting for care, they thought, we need to build a dedicated hospital for women with obstetric fistula, and that's what they did. And I think from the beginning, once hearts went out to these women, they weren't about to leave anytime soon.
Alison, it's an extraordinary initiative, and apart from the physical pain and suffering, which is atrocious. The women who get this are often also shunned and kicked out of their villages. Is part of this work also giving them back their dignity and restoring their place in the community?
Yeah, for sure. If you just put yourself in the position of these women where you're leaking urine and sometimes faeces 24/7, no one wants to be with you. You're completely isolated, shunned. A lot of them lose their families, they're kicked out of their village, or they're hidden away and never come into contact with people, never get touched by anybody. It's the most excruciating sort of complication, especially if you've just, had a baby that has died as well.
Oh, it's
this is sort of just awful.
Horrendous.
The care at the hospital's amazing. From the moment these women walk in the door, they're just given complete unconditional love. A lot of the staff are ex-patients, so they know what these women have gone through. They love them, they touch them, it's just a very beautiful, healing place. Catherine has built this amazing garden around the hospital that's really restorative. While women are being surgically treated, they're also being treated just for their whole person, about love and dignity. Some of them have had this condition for years before they found their way to the hospital. So there's a lot of healing that needs to really restore these women.
You accepted your aunt's New South Wales Senior Australian of the Year award, so you must be incredibly proud of her because she's so special. Is that the reason you went into medicine?
A large part. I think every Australian who knows of the work of Catherine must be very proud of her. Certainly within the family, when growing up, she and my uncle Reg would come out every 3 years back to Sydney, and their stories were mesmerising and the work they did was so impressive. I think their work has inspired lots of people to work in this area, and certainly, that's the case for me.
She is an extraordinary woman, Alison, and you're on the board of the Hamlin Foundation. What is the work that the foundation does?
Yeah, the Catherine Hamlin Fistula Foundation is really designed to continue the support of the hospital. Obviously, these women can't afford to pay for their treatment, so it's generous Australians and people from other countries who support the work that provide that care. But in addition to that, we want to fulfil the desire that Catherine has to eradicate fistula. So as she puts it, it won't happen in her lifetime, but it could happen in ours. And for that to happen, we need to be promoting the need for all women to get good quality care for every delivery, regardless of whether you're poor or whether you live in a remote village of Ethiopia. It's your right to have good quality obstetric care. And if we did that, we would eradicate fistula.
Such incredible work. And if you want to donate to the Hamlin Foundation, you can head to hamlin.org.au. Dr. Alison Morgan, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.